Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. CNN officially commenced. Some are calling them layoffs, some are calling them mass layoffs. Honestly, call them what you want. The fact here is CNN new CEO Chris Ledge is cleaning house. He said that difficult decisions had to be made and that it was most likely going to be uncomfortable. Or folks, that's exactly what's going on as CNN shuts down an entire division and sacks their online CNN politics editor-at-large Chris Elizab. Another one bites the dust, folks. Let's talk about the continued slow march towards the end of woke media. Alright, folks. Take a look at this piece right over here from the Daily Mail. CNN fires crystallization correspondents. Allison Kosick. Alex Field host Martin Savage and VP of Northeast News, Mary and Fox, and on top of that scraps HLNS live programming in its latest round of layoffs. The latest round of layoffs at CNN has hit some of the network's biggest names. Political analyst Chris Cillizza, 46, who has been covering national politics, the White House, and Congress for the cable giant since 2017. After coming over to the network from The Washington Post, was among those who were let go this week, Variety reported. Now, for those of you guys who aren't aware, this is Chris Elizab, CNN politics reporter and editor-at-large. Chris is no small fry. Crystal is essentially one of the bosses of CNN Online, presents their online content and article writing under Skin and Politics. This is big news because the focus has been on all the primetime shows that Jake Tappers, the Anderson Coopers, the Jim Acosta is of the world, who's next on the chopping block, but their online presence is just as significant, and some would say possibly even more significant. Chris Cillizza is the editor-at-large for CNN Politics, meaning the contents of articles published have to go through him, at least a good chunk of them. And what we can just conveniently ignore or look over is that most, if not all, of the most destructive, divisive fake news that CNN has published and promoted comes from their online division. All of the phony reports and phony fake news gets published on the website first, and then you have the CNN actors like Don Lemon had Jake Tapper and the rest of these clowns basically parroting what the articles wrote earlier in the morning. And this Crystal is a guy. The first mean, this guy is a phony, he's a fraud. He'll publish articles every now and then. Lefties are actually celebrating the firing of Chris Cillizza because they view him as a coward who takes both sides of him stances. But really, I'll tell you firsthand my experience with listening to Chris Cillizza reporting speak. The whole both sides thing is almost like a shtick. He uses it almost like a distraction or a cover every now and then. He'll write an article which portrays almost like a semblance of non-bias or fair reporting, but it's all fake. It's the same kind of grip, the same kind of stick that Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper run. Chris Cillizza has been at the network since 2017. That's when Donald Trump was inaugurated. And he has been a boss, a major editor for CNN Online division. All of the fake news, all of the phony garbage hit pieces that CNN has published, which trended on Twitter, in which influenced people's views and influenced the elections, all happened under this guy's watch. So while we may have overlooked an individual like Chris Cillizza, his firing may actually take priority over individuals like Jake Tapper and others. He might even be the head of fake news at CNN. I mean, the online CNN division was really the premier anti-Trump division, which generated them billions of dollars during the Trump years, otherwise known as the Trump bump. It wasn't really in the network views and the Nielsen ratings. The money that CNN was making during the Trump days was with online CNN subscriptions. And this right here, folks, it signals that CNN is moving in a different direction. It's big, big news. And when you look at the whole picture, it's looking like a major overhaul. The network has absolutely destroyed its reputation, and it seems like they're in a financial freefall. And this is causing the desperation that we're seeing amid these layoffs. Not only did Chris Collins and other top CNN employees get fired, but they're also totally scrapping HTML programming moving forward. Now somebody has to educate me on what HTML is. Honestly, I had no idea that it even existed. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make that clearly, CNN is desperate to slash an entire news network or news division as they try to stop the woke ship from sinking, and that's really what it is. CNN got woke and went broke. CNN made their identity pushing fake news and attacking Donald Trump, and they became the latest victims of the Trump curse. But moving on. Interestingly enough, CNN isn't the only one learning the hard way, getting woke and going broke. Actually, this segment of the video was a little bit of a retraction or a clarification I released a video about. 4 days ago about Disney going broke, where Disney Insider was speculating that the firing of Bob Chapek was possibly due to his refusal to cave into the woke mob. A little bit of an interesting take. I mean, we obviously declared it speculation, but now it seems as though Bob Chapek might have actually been fired because he was too woke. And the bringing back in the earlier Bob Iger who just said this, everyone listen to this, is a virtual question. Many cast members had wished that Disney stayed out of politics, while Disney stay out of making political statements. You know, I think there's a misperception here about what politics is. And I think that some of the subjects that have proven to be controversial, as it relates to Disney, have been branded political, and I don't necessarily believe they are. I don't think when you were telling stories and attempting to be a good citizen of the world, that's political, just not how I view it. Do I like the company being embroiled in controversy? Of course not. It can be distracting, and it can have a negative impact on the company. And to the extent that I can work to kind of quiet things down, I'm going to do that. But I think it's important to put in perspective what some of these subjects are, and not just simply brand them political. No, I have to get up to speed on that completely. Obviously, I followed the news that development occurred after I left the company. I was sorry to see us dragged into that battle. And I have no idea exactly what the ramifications are, in terms of the business itself. What I can say is, the state of Florida has been important to us for a long time. And we have been very important to the state of Florida. That is something I'm extremely mindful of and will articulate if I get the chance. But I don't have the details at all yet about what the ramifications are of the decision that was made by the state of Florida, and whether we intend to do anything about it. Okay, folks. Now, that wasn't a total condemnation of the world cultural BS, but it certainly was a step back, essentially stating publicly that Disney is going to move away from pushing these sensitive, controversial cultural issues or cultural topics. That to me seems like a win in the culture war. What it seems to me is that these woke companies are going broke and they're scrambling as they get desperate. As the economy takes a turn for the worst. All of a sudden, they're realizing being woke isn't exactly profitable. It's kind of running their businesses into the ground. It may be possible to be woke when governments are printing trillions upon trillions of dollars, and there's endless money being invested into the markets and capital being raised. But when you're forced to come back down to reality, this whole world business model is clearly not sustainable. And it seems as though CNN is learning the hard way. Disney also seems to be learning the hard way. And we might be near the end of this woke media era. Of course, we'll have to see, but at least it's a step in the right direction. CNN politics editor-at-large Chris Cillizza is officially fired, and now we're learning that even Disney is possibly taking a step back away from the woke cultural nonsense. And this is some big news. There's a new entry into the growing list of companies that have fallen victim to the age-old universal maxim "get woke, go broke." The day of reckoning has finally come for hundreds of staff at the one and only CNN, the most distrusted name in fake news. It's being widely reported that as of the last 24 hours, it has been nothing less than an utter bloodbath, or as Yahoo News puts it, a gut punch of layoffs among the victims. Perhaps most dramatically, the entire staff at HLN, which is a spin-off of CNN owned by CNN Global. The entire HLN operation has been officially nixed. But this was apparently just the tip of the iceberg of the layoffs, while the specific number has not been released. CNN's reliable sources columnist Oliver Darcy reported that it consisted of, quote, hundreds of staffers, and wrote, quote, morale is low and a feeling of apprehension has saturated CNN's newsrooms now that dark cloud of impending pink slip doom has been hovering over the CNN operation now for some time. It will start back in 2019, when CNN laid off almost all of their healthcare coverage division. And this came just weeks after CNN announced that they were planning to lay off upwards of 300 of their staffers. And so reports came out that CNN staff, they were absolutely panicking over the future. Their company in this panic was all the more justified, given the fact that at the time, the corporate executives of CNN at their parent company at NT weren't interested at all in addressing the fundamental reason for these horrible ratings. And that fundamental reason was, of course, CNN's continuing credibility crisis for literally upwards of 3 years. CNN was telling its viewers that Vladimir Putin stole the 2016 election, that the coming Mueller report was going to sink Trump. The Mueller report would end up with indictments flying everywhere implicating Trump in the entirety of his inner circle. They were told that the Catholic Covington Catholic school students were racist bigots. They were told that Kyle Rittenhouse was basically a white supremacist, that the Hunter Biden laptop was nothing more than Russian disinformation, that J6 was a bona fide insurrection, and Liz Cheney's the bravest person on the planet. I mean, is it any wonder that their ratings have plummeted 90% over the last year? And I didn't even mention the ridiculous performative hysterics of Jim Acosta, the White House correspondent for CNN during Trump's term, who acted more like a heckler than a reporter, or Don Lemon, who compared Trump to Hitler as well as calling him a racist, a fraud, a con man, and even questioned Trump's mental fitness, all the while, of course, giving Bumble and Biden a total and complete pass, so going all the way back to 2019. Even CNN employees were apparently openly wondering why CNN continued to put someone like Don Lemon on air at primetime. Well, of course that's over now. Lemon has been demoted to the morning show that nobody watches. His desk has been moved to the basement. That's because of the new management that has taken over CNN. Unlike the old management that didn't seem to give a rip about CNN's credibility crisis, the new management does. We've talked a lot about Chris Licht. Before he is the new CNN chairman and CEO. He took over for the incessant anti-Trump Jeff Zucker, who ran CNN to the ground by going full woke. Licht, unlike Zucker, is actually trying to save CNN. The only way he knows CNN can be saved is by basically killing it. He has to completely got it, and he's not alone. You may not know this, but a bona fide Trump donor has basically taken over CNN. It's true, and even the late-night clown Stephen Colbert is worried about it. But first, for you pager business owners out there, you have got to meet my good friend Justin Glovsky, co-founder of ERC Specialists. He's got an amazing payroll protection company exclusively dedicated to understanding and maximizing what's called the CARES Act Employee Retention Credit. That's the ERC. So if you're a small business owner looking to get up to $26,000 per employee back from Bumble and Biden, click on that link in the description below to see if you qualify today. This is an absolutely amazing opportunity. Part of the new management that's taken over CNN as a bona fide Trump donor. He's a fella by the name of John Malone, and a number of articles have been coming out basically accusing CNN of purging their woke stars and employees as part of a deliberate attempt to remake CNN and what many consider be a more pro-Trump image. The leftist media is openly freaking out over this realization that a billionaire who supported Trump, who donated to Trump, who has a long history of supporting conservative causes, is now more or less calling the shots over at CNN, and even the ultra-leftist clown Stephen Colbert is worried about this. You may have heard about or may even have seen this clip of Don Lemon's recent appearance on Colbert Show that's also struggling in the ratings. Thanks for sticking around. Follow me daily. I will do my best to show you. There's a lot of information that shows what's going on. Remember, where we go one, we go all. See you tomorrow.